I want to shift to just what it means for progressives and for folks on the left, and bring up, this CA recall, why it matters, and give some analysis from the League of Pissed Off Voters in San Francisco, which are great. And they basically explain that there is no serious candidate running to replace Governor Newsom, and that the strategy right now is no. And if we want to prevent someone like Larry Elder from becoming the next governor of California and rolling back any amount of small progress that this state actually has made. So they write, there aren't many serious candidates among the 46 on the ballot. None of the Democrats are endorsed by the CA Democratic Party. They plump for the strategy all in on Newsom surviving because of fears that running a real candidate would hamper Newsom's efforts to hang on. When this same drama played out almost 20 years ago, this is important context, serious Democrat Lieutenant Governor Cruz Bustamante was in the mix to replace Governor Gray Davis. Some people think that his campaign made Davis look bad. Ultimately, Davis was defenestrated, and a telegenic Republican, Arnold Schwarzenegger, became the governor. So that is why there is no backup, because the idea is it would confuse voters. Now, for those who, just 100 on this, a lot of immigrants' rights groups are pointing to the fact that when Arnold Schwarzenegger came in, guess what he did? He revoked driver's licenses for undocumented people in this state. And that was a big coup for the right, and it was something that immigrant rights groups had to work against for years to get back those rights. Meanwhile, you've got Gavin Newsom, who actually expanded healthcare and Medicaid coverage to undocumented immigrants, something that personally I agree with as a progressive. So I just want to put that out there, that like the strategy from everyone from the grassroots left to even Gavin Newsom, who a lot of us do not support or do not like, is vote no on the recall and leave the second blank, vote whomever you want, write in your own name. It doesn't, that's not a part of the strategy. Whether or not it's gonna work, we will see. And there is an election next year, but it is all incredibly, to be honest with you, frustrating from a California perspective.
Yeah, so I want to be clear about a couple things. I don't agree with Democratic strategy, and I don't agree with their analysis. So I agree on vote no on the recall, because what do you want? You want a Republican governor? That's not gonna make things better, it's gonna make things worse. That's not complicated, that's easy to understand. And then for God's sake, let's put together an awesome primary against Gavin Newsom for the election coming up in 2022. And when the Democratic Party, by the way, in California, which I guarantee you they will say, oh, how dare you? There should be no Democratic challenge to the awesome Gavin Newsom, who's on the verge of losing a recall against a rando number one, right? Who just absolutely sucks at his job and is totally a neoliberal that serves his corporate donors. And they'll say, how dare you do a primary challenge? I don't give a damn about it. We're gonna do a primary challenge, I guarantee it right now. And we're gonna take down Gavin Newsom, but we're gonna do it the right way. Putting Larry Elder in makes no sense, obviously, right? But now that being said, the Democratic strategy of let's not run anyone else and cross our fingers, I think that strategy sucks. And so, and I'll tell you the other reason why they're doing that strategy. It's not just because of Cruz Bustamante, which I'll get into in a second. It's because, well, they don't control the other Democrats in the race. And they don't control any of the Democrats that were willing to get in the race. And the California Democratic Party is as authoritarian as almost any party in the country. And they do not tolerate anyone that they cannot 100% control. The leaders of the party do not brook any dissent. So that's why they're not like, oh my God, it's such a brilliant strategy, blah, 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 blah. No, and now finally, back to Cruz Bustamante and that election. They say, oh no, Schwarzenegger won because Bustamante took votes away from Gray Davis accidentally. You guys remember any of that? Maybe you don't, because it was a long time ago. I covered it. Cruz Bustamante was like a schleppy accountant. And he didn't take votes away from anybody. He was like the biggest dork anybody's ever seen. The other guy was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He won because he was a celebrity. Everybody knows that. Not because of Cruz Bustamante. He got like 3 votes. No, that's absurd. That's not what happened at all. It's revisionist history, because California Democratic leadership will never tolerate a progressive or anyone else that they cannot control 100%.
Yeah, I think, listen to Fran and Cenk here. I acknowledge that I don't live in California, so it doesn't affect me that much. But I do think it's important that someone like Larry Elder is not governor of California. He's somebody who wants a $0 minimum wage. Whether that's feasible or not from his position remains to be seen. I doubt it. But he's opposed the Americans with Disabilities Act. But something he could do is repeal mask mandates and vaccine mandates. So that would have a direct impact, a material impact on voters' lives in California, on everyone in California's lives, and even if they travel around the region, around the country, your life. So that is a very short-term consequence of Larry Elder becoming governor of California. You see it play out in schools. Without mask mandates, kids are getting sick and spreading it. And while they might not die from it at the same rates as older people or people who are immunocompromised, they could bring it home and spread it to their friends and family. We do not want that. Like, this is a matter of public health, and whether you like Newsom or not, and I still don't think Larry Elder should be governor of California. It's really simple. Anyone treating it like a binary, like a no vote means you like Newsom and support everything he does, is reckless. Do not pay attention to anybody who's trying to treat it like that. If you vote no and leave the second issue blank, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's funny that we're talking about a mulligan because literally the recall is just a mulligan. Let's be real. Republicans started this recall before supposedly their reasoning is the lockdowns and saving lives, and mask mandates. No, they started the recall because John Cox, who ran as a Republican against Gavin Newsom, was, for lack of a better term, butthurt about it. And that's why they started the recall. And so the entire process is bogus. But I personally, last thing I'll say, if we save Newsom's ass, he owes us big. If he tax right, no. Goodbye. Like, goodbye anyway, but you're not tacking right. I know grassroots organizations who are calling, knocking doors. They're coming out for you. What are you doing for the unhoused, the undocumented? What are you doing for working people in California? What are you doing for climate change? We need to see you in action.
Look, guys, I know that there's a lot of simpletons left in the world, but this is not at all complicated. What's your alternative? Gavin Newsom doesn't exist in a vacuum. So if your alternative is a wonderful progressive, then I vote for the wonderful progressive. If your alternative is a lunatic right winger who's going to immediately take away masks, et cetera, and endanger our lives, why is that a hard question? So yeah, as you can tell, none of us like Gavin Newsom. It's not even close. I think he's a total corporatist. I can't stand him. And you'd be nuts not to primary him from the left when we have a real governor's election in California. But why would you vote to recall him when you have no alternative? It just makes no sense. And sadly, there is no strategy.
There's no strategy. I mean, and I look, everyone vote your heart. No one's chastising anyone. But if there was like a strong progressive, no, I'm saying like, if there was a progressive running who there was a movement behind and enough support behind, okay. But the polling is the polling. This is a Republican recall. They love this. They're coming out of the woodworks for this stuff. I didn't say a bad word, but they're coming out of the woodwork. So, again, vote how you want to vote on that second question. It honestly is not going to make a difference, sadly, at this point.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.